Hey everyone, so today we're going to be focusing on our NHD quick tip number 3 on annotated bibliographies. Before we get started on annotated bibliographies, we need to check the rulebook. So if you haven't heard, NHD issued a new rulebook in June of 2020, and it basically just updates our rules and clarifies some things for teachers and students. So if you haven't checked it out yet, follow me over to nhd.org/rules. This will bring you directly to a PDF copy of our new rulebook. So we're going to first look at what the rulebook says about annotated bibliographies. So Rule 19 deals specifically with annotated bibliographies, and you can find Rule 19 on pages 19 and 20 in the NHD contest rulebook. So this breaks down what NHD requires for an annotated bibliography. So make sure that you check those out. Also, if you scroll on to page 20, you'll see information about what an annotation should provide, how long that annotation should be, and what it should explain. So don't forget, before you start working on your annotated bibliography, to read through pages 19 and 20 on annotated bibliographies in the NHD contest rulebook. And in this one, we're going to talk about that really key word, annotated. So we need to start with the first question. What is an annotation? So an annotation is an explanation and an evaluation of the source that you used in your NHD project. And because of that, it has two key components. You need to explain what the source is, and then you need to evaluate it. So that means answering those really big questions of how and why. How and why are really big questions in our NHD projects, especially when we're thinking about historical significance or why it's important to history. But when you're writing your evaluations, how and why are really key questions to be asking of your sources as well. So here's a couple of quick tips that you should be thinking about when you're writing your annotations for your annotated bibliography. You want to start out by answering a couple of questions. So the first question is the easiest one. What type of source is this? Is it a book? Is it an article? Or if it's a primary source, is it a letter? Is it a manuscript collection? Is it a photograph collection, right? This doesn't need to be extensive, but you need to clue the reader in to what type of source you're using. The next question that you need to consider in your annotation is, how was this source used? It's not just enough that you put it in your exhibit or your documentary or you talk about it in your paper. You need to think about how you used it. What is it adding to your NHD project? That third prompt of I used this source too relates to how did the source help you to understand your topic. So in this case, you want to think about what details you've learned from the source that you're working with. And it could be that it's helping you learn about a specific individual or a specific time period in history. And we want to know what details you were able to figure out from reading that source and how they shaped your NHD project. So for example, if your project is on changing politics in the 1890s, you need to explore the different political platforms. You might have to look into muckrakers and progressives in order to really understand the larger political world of the 1890s. So that's what you want to explain to the reader. Now that you've got all of your questions and your prompts set up, the next thing we're going to do is walk through a really quick example. All right, so we've got our questions, we've got our prompts, and make it simple in the beginning. Draft out using those prompts. So this source is a biography on Theodore Roosevelt. I used this source because it gave me details on Roosevelt's political position in the 1890s. I used this source to explore how Roosevelt chose to argue for American expansionism and why. So, you've got a draft there. And it's a good draft. It answers all of the questions. But the next question that you need to ask is, if I'm an NHD judge or someone viewing my project, could I understand what I learned from this source? And so what you may need to do is flesh out your annotation a little and just edit it, right? Make it a little less clunky. And here's what you might come up with in the end. This biography of Theodore Roosevelt helped me to understand how Roosevelt used specific arguments for American expansionism, including the growth of U.S. foreign policy and the U.S. military. It gave me details regarding the larger political dynamics of the 1890s and how they not only shaped Roosevelt's own political platform, but American government overall. So they essentially do the same thing, but that final version gives a little more information, right? It susses out a little bit of what Roosevelt's specific arguments are and how those are helpful for you to know for your project, but it also explains about those details and why they're important to your topic. Hopefully this helps you write your annotations for your NHD project. If you have any more questions, I encourage you to visit nhd.org/annotated bibliography. This is where we put the majority of information relating to annotated bibliographies that will hopefully answer any other questions that you have.